The last thing Clara Bennett expected to see when she walked into the old city library that morning was a man who made everyone else in the room afraid. Not because he shouted, not because he threatened anyone, but because the entire building became silent the moment he entered. Clara had worked at Bellwood Library for 6 years. 6 years of opening the doors before sunrise. 6 years of organizing thousands of books. 6 years of remembering the names of children who came after school, elderly people who needed a quiet place to rest, and lonely strangers who just wanted somewhere to belong. She knew every corner of the library, every broken chair, every dusty shelf, every book that had been forgotten. And yet, somehow, she had never learned how to make people stop judging her. At 28 years old, Clara was a woman who had spent most of her life being told she was too much. Too curvy, too quiet, too emotional, too different. People rarely noticed how hard she worked. They noticed the way she looked. That morning was supposed to be ordinary. Until a wealthy customer walked through the front doors. Victoria Hale, the daughter of one of the city's most influential families. A woman who entered the library wearing designer clothes and carrying herself like she owned every room she entered. She approached the front desk where Clara was organizing returned books. "Excuse me." Clara looked up. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Victoria placed a book on the desk. "I need this removed from my account." Clara scanned the barcode. A small frown appeared. "I'm sorry, but this book was returned damaged." Victoria smiled. Not kindly. "Damaged?" Clara opened the cover carefully. The final pages had been torn. The condition report shows it was returned like this. Victoria looked around. Then her eyes moved back to Clara. "So you're accusing me?" "No." Clara stayed calm. "I'm just explaining the record." Several people nearby began watching. Victoria lowered her voice. "You know, this is why people like you shouldn't work in places like this." Clara froze. "What do you mean?" A small smile appeared on Victoria's face. "I mean places that require class." The words hurt. Not because Clara hadn't heard insults before. She had. But because she had spent years trying to prove she belonged. And someone had dismissed her in one sentence. "I treat every visitor with respect." Clara's voice remained steady. "I expect the same." Victoria laughed softly. "Respect?" She looked Clara up and down. "You think wearing a librarian badge makes people see you differently?" The library became painfully quiet. Clara felt every eye on her. Judging. Waiting. Watching. Then Victoria picked up the book. "This isn't even worth my time." She pushed it toward Clara. "You can pay for it yourself." Clara stared. "That's not how library policies work." Victoria leaned closer. "Then maybe you should learn how the world works." A few people whispered. Clara felt heat rising in her face, but she didn't look away. That was something she had learned. People who wanted to hurt you expected you to disappear. "I will follow the rules," Clara said quietly, "no matter who disagrees." For a moment, Victoria looked surprised, then annoyed. Before she could respond, another voice interrupted. "Interesting." Everyone turned. A man stood near the entrance, tall, wearing a black suit, dark coat, calm expression. He looked like someone who belonged in a luxury office, not an old library. But the reaction around him said everything. People moved aside. Employees stopped talking. Even Victoria's confident expression changed. Because everyone knew him. Damian Moretti, a businessman with a reputation that made people lower their voices. A man connected to power, wealth, and rumors nobody dared repeat. He walked slowly toward the front desk. His eyes didn't leave Clara. Then he looked at the damaged book. "May I see that?" Clara hesitated, then handed it to him. Damian opened the cover, checked the pages. The damage, the return date, everything. Victoria crossed her arms. "Mr. Moretti, This employee is making a scene over a damaged book. Damian ignored her. Instead, he looked at Clara. Did you damage it? The question surprised her, but she answered honestly. No. Did you accuse her? No. A pause. I explained the policy. Damian closed the book, then looked at Victoria. She followed the rules. Victoria smiled nervously. You don't understand the situation. No. His voice was calm. I understand perfectly. He placed the book on the desk. This book was already damaged before it was returned. Victoria's expression changed. How would you know? Damian reached inside his coat. He pulled out a small card. The library staff badge. Not his. Someone else's. Clara looked confused. Where did you get that? Damian looked at her. I found it inside the book. Everyone froze. Because the badge belonged to Victoria. Victoria's face turned pale. That's impossible. Damian calmly handed it to Clara. Someone placed it there accidentally. A pause. Or deliberately. The room went silent. Clara looked at the badge, then at Victoria. For the first time, Victoria had no words. Damian turned back to Clara. You were right. She blinked. About what? Standing your ground. Those simple words affected her more than she expected, because nobody had said that before. Not when she was insulted, not when she was ignored, not when she was made to feel small. Victoria quickly left the library, but Damian didn't move. He picked up another book from the desk. A very old one, a worn leather cover. Clara recognized it immediately. That book isn't available for public borrowing. Damian looked at it. I know. Then why do you have it? For the first time, his expression changed. Something hidden, something personal. Because I have been searching for it for 10 years. Clara looked confused. Why? Damian ran his fingers over the cover. Because someone I loved left a message inside it. The answer caught her attention. Before she could ask more, a phone rang. Damian answered. His expression immediately hardened. Where? Silence. Then, do not let anyone touch it. He ended the call. Clara watched him. Is everything okay? Damian looked toward the library entrance. No. A pause. The person who stole this book 10 years ago. His eyes returned to her. Just came back. Clara felt a strange chill. Because suddenly, the damaged book was no longer just a library item. It was connected to secrets, danger, and a man who had walked into her quiet world like a storm. Damian picked up the book, then stopped. He looked at Clara. Keep this safe. She frowned. Why me? A long silence. Then he answered, because whoever wants this book, a pause, will come for the person who protects it. And Clara Bennett had no idea that by defending a simple library rule that morning, she had just stepped into a war between powerful families, a war that had been waiting 10 years to begin again. The library had never felt dangerous before. To Clara Bennett, Bellwood Library had always been a place where the world slowed down, a place where people whispered instead of shouted, where arguments ended with apologies, where forgotten stories waited patiently on shelves. But after Damian Moretti walked away, the silence felt different, heavy, like the walls themselves were hiding something. Clara stood behind the front desk, staring at the old leather-bound book he had left behind. She had handled thousands of books in her career. Some were rare, some were valuable, some were priceless because of the memories written inside them. But this one felt different. She reached toward it, then stopped. Damian's words returned to her. Keep this safe. Safe from what? And why her? Clara. She looked up. Her co-worker Emily stood nearby. Are you okay? Clara forced a small smile. Yes. Emily glanced toward the entrance. Was that really Damian Moretti? Clara looked confused. Do you know him? Emily lowered her voice. Everyone knows him. He's one of those people you hear about but never actually meet. What kind of person? Emily hesitated. The kind people don't ask questions about. Clara looked at the book again. For some reason, that answer didn't scare her as much as it should have, because she had seen something different. Not in the newspapers, not in rumors. In his eyes, a man carrying something heavy, something he never talked about. Later that evening, the library closed at 7. Rain covered the city streets. Clara stayed behind, finishing paperwork. She liked working after hours. No noise, no judgment, just books. She walked toward the restricted archive room. The old book needed to be returned to a secure shelf, but when she reached the door, she stopped. The lock was broken. Her heart tightened. Nobody should have been there. She slowly pushed the door open. The archive room was dark. Shelves surrounded her. Old manuscripts, historical records, rare collections. Then she heard it. A sound. Someone breathing. Hello? No answer. Clara stepped back. She wasn't brave. Not really. But she had spent years learning that fear didn't disappear just because you ignored it. She reached for the light switch. Nothing. The power was cut. Then a shadow moved. A hand grabbed her arm. Clara gasped. Before she could scream, the person released her. Quiet. A familiar voice. Damian. Clara stared at him. You scared me. I know. That was your plan? No. A pause. Someone else was here. Her expression changed. What? Damian looked around the room. Did you touch the book? No? Good. He walked deeper into the archive. Clara followed. Wait. He turned. You shouldn't be here. She crossed her arms. Interesting. What? You say that a lot. Damian looked at her. Because you keep walking into dangerous situations, and you keep appearing in them. A pause. Maybe that's a pattern. For a second, Damian almost smiled. Almost. Then his expression returned. Serious. You need to understand something. What? The book isn't valuable because of what it is. Clara looked confused. Then why? Because of what is hidden inside. He opened the book carefully. The pages looked ordinary. Yellowed. Aged. Nothing unusual. Then Damian pointed to the spine. Someone modified it. Clara leaned closer. A tiny seam. Almost invisible. How did you notice that? I spent 10 years looking for it. She looked at him. Why? Damian didn't answer immediately. That was the first thing Clara noticed about him. He wasn't a man who avoided questions. He was a man who carried answers that hurt too much to say. My father disappeared. Clara became quiet. 10 years ago. A pause. The last place anyone saw him was this library. She looked at the book. This book belonged to him? Damian nodded. Yes. What was his name? A long silence. Alessandro Moretti. The name meant something. Even Clara knew it. A powerful man. A businessman. A figure surrounded by rumors. But why would he leave a message here? Damian looked at the shelves. Because he trusted someone. Who? His eyes moved to her. Your father. Clara froze. My father? Thomas Bennett. She took a step back. How do you know my father? Damian didn't answer. Instead, he reached into the book. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a small piece of paper. Old handwriting. Faded. Damian unfolded it. His expression changed immediately. Clara saw his hand tighten. What does it say? He looked at her. For the first time, she saw fear. Real fear. Damian? He handed her the paper. She read the words. Her face slowly changed. Because the message was not addressed to Damian. It was addressed to her. Clara, if you are reading this, it means they found the book. Her heartbeat increased. The message continued. You must never trust the Moretti family. Clara looked up. Damian was staring at her. Neither spoke. Then she read the final sentence, and everything changed. Because the person Damian Moretti is searching for, a pause, is not missing. Clara swallowed. The handwriting continued. He is hiding. The room became silent. Because for 10 years, Damian believed his father was lost. But someone knew the truth. Someone had been hiding it. Damian slowly took the note. Who wrote this? Clara looked at the handwriting. Her voice became quiet. My father. A sudden noise came from outside the archive room. A door closing. Someone else was inside the library. Damian immediately moved. He turned off the light and pulled Clara behind him. She whispered, Someone followed us? No. A pause. They were already here. Footsteps approached. Slow, calm, confident. Not someone searching. Someone who knew exactly where they were going. Damian prepared himself. Clara felt his hand tighten. Then she realized something. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for her. The footsteps stopped outside the archive door. A voice spoke. Damian. His entire body went still, because he knew that voice. A voice from 10 years ago. A voice he thought he would never hear again. The door slowly opened, and standing there was the person who knew where Alessandro Moretti disappeared. Clara couldn't see his face clearly, but Damian could, and the shock in his eyes told her everything. Because the person standing in the doorway was someone Damian had buried in his memories. Someone who should have been impossible. The figure standing in the doorway did not move. Neither did Damian. For several seconds, the entire archive room existed in silence. The kind of silence where one breath could change everything. Clara stood behind Damian, watching the transformation happen. A moment ago, he was the man who seemed impossible to frighten. The man who walked through danger like it was nothing. But now, something in his face had broken. You're dead. Damian's voice was barely above a whisper. The person in the doorway stepped into the light. An older man, gray hair, tired eyes. A face carrying 10 years of secrets. No. The man looked at Damian. I was hiding. Clara felt a chill, because she understood immediately. This was not a stranger. This was someone connected to Damian's deepest wound. Damian stepped forward. Adrian. The man's expression softened. Hello, Damian. Clara looked at him. Who is he? Damian didn't answer. Adrian did. I was your father's closest advisor. A pause. And the last person to see him alive. The words hit the room like thunder. Clara looked at Damian. She saw his jaw tighten. His hands close into fists. 10 years. Damian's voice became colder. 10 years, and you let me believe he was gone. Adrian lowered his eyes. I had no choice. No choice? Damian stepped closer. You disappeared. A pause. My father disappeared. My family collapsed. And you had no choice? His voice rose. The first time Clara had ever heard anger from him. Adrian didn't fight back, because he knew Damian had every reason to hate him. I tried to tell you. When? Before the attack. Damian froze. What attack? Adrian looked toward Clara, then back at Damian. The night your father vanished wasn't an accident. The room became colder. Clara felt it, the moment where a mystery became something more dangerous. What happened? Damian demanded. Adrian looked at the old book. The answer is inside. Damian picked it up. The book. Adrian nodded. Your father knew someone close to him was planning betrayal. Who? A pause. He didn't know. Clara looked at the hidden message. My father knew. Adrian looked at her. Yes. How? A long silence. Then, because Thomas Bennett was the person your father trusted most. Clara felt her chest tighten. Her father, the quiet man who spent his life repairing old books, the man who never talked about powerful people, had been connected to the Moretti family. Why didn't he tell me? Adrian looked sad. Because he wanted you away from this world. A pause. He wanted you to have a normal life. Clara looked down. She almost laughed. Normal. She spent her entire life feeling like she didn't belong, feeling like people saw her as less. But maybe her father wasn't hiding her because she was weak. Maybe he was hiding her because he knew how cruel the world could be. Damian opened the book again. Where is the message? Adrian pointed. Not the paper. The book itself. He touched the leather cover. Alessandro designed this book as a container. A container for what? The truth. Damian carefully examined the cover. Then he noticed something. A symbol. Hidden beneath the worn leather. A symbol Clara had seen before. On her father's old belongings. A small mark. A circle with a line through the center. My father had this symbol. Adrian looked at her. Yes. Why? A pause. Because Thomas Bennett wasn't just a librarian. Clara stared. What? Adrian continued. He was part of an organization that protected information. An organization created by Alessandro Moretti. Damian looked at Clara. So your father knew everything. Adrian nodded. He knew who wanted Alessandro gone. Who? Adrian's expression darkened. Someone inside the Moretti family. The words landed heavily. A betrayal from within. Not an outside enemy. Family. Damian turned away. My mother? Adrian looked at him. No. A pause. Someone closer! Before Damian could ask more, a loud crash echoed through the library. The windows shattered. Clara screamed. Damian moved instantly. He grabbed her and pulled her behind a shelf. Glass fell where she had been standing. Stay down. His voice was calm, but his eyes were different. Focused. Dangerous. Outside the archive room, footsteps. Multiple people. Armed. Moving carefully. Adrian looked worried. They found us! Damian looked at him. Who? Adrian whispered. The same people who killed Alessandro. Damian looked toward Clara. Then the book. Then the entrance. A decision formed in his eyes. Clara noticed. What are you going to do? Damian didn't answer. He walked toward the door. Damian. He stopped. For a moment. He looked back. If something happens... No, Clara interrupted. You don't get to say goodbye. He looked surprised. She stepped closer. You saved me today. A pause. Now let me help you. Damian stared at her. Everyone else in his life either feared him or wanted something from him. But Clara, she was different. She wasn't trying to use his power. She was trying to stand beside him. Stay behind me, she sighed. There it is again. What? That order. A small silence. Then, unexpectedly, Damian almost smiled. Fine. Clara blinked. Fine? You can stand beside me. A pause. But don't leave my sight. For some reason, that felt like trust. The archive door opened. Damian stepped out. The attackers raised their weapons. But before anyone fired, the lights suddenly turned on. Everyone stopped, because someone else had entered the library. Someone with enough authority to make armed men lower their weapons. A woman walked through the main entrance. Elegant, calm, powerful. Damian's expression changed. Again, Clara looked at him. Who is she? Damian didn't answer, because he knew exactly who she was. The woman looked at Damian, then at the book, then at Clara, and smiled. After 10 years, her voice was soft. You finally found the librarian. Damian stepped forward. Mother. Clara froze. The woman standing in the library was Damian Moretti's mother, Maria Moretti. The woman everyone believed disappeared. Maria looked at Clara and said the words that changed everything. "You have no idea what your father left inside that book." She looked at Damian. "And you have no idea why he chose her." The room went silent, because suddenly, the book was no longer the mystery. Clara was. Maria Moretti's arrival changed the atmosphere of the library instantly. A few minutes earlier, the building had been filled with chaos, broken glass, hidden enemies, a fight waiting to happen. But the moment she stepped inside, everything stopped. Not because she carried a weapon, not because she threatened anyone, but because everyone in that room understood one thing. Maria Moretti was a woman who survived things that were supposed to destroy her. Damian stared at her. 10 years. 10 years of anger. 10 years of questions. 10 years believing his family had been taken from him. And now, the person he thought he lost forever stood in front of him. "You're alive." Maria looked at her son. "I am." Her voice was calm, almost painfully calm. Damian walked closer. "Why?" One word, but it carried 10 years of pain. Maria lowered her eyes. "Because if I came back too soon." A pause. "You would have died." The answer didn't satisfy him. "You expect me to believe that?" "No." A pause. "I expect you to ask the right questions." Clara watched them silently. This was not a reunion. Not yet. This was two people standing on opposite sides of a wound that never healed. Damian looked toward the armed men outside. "Are they yours?" Maria glanced at them. "No." "Then whose?" A silence. "Then, the same person who has been hunting that book for 10 years. Adrian stepped forward. "You know who it is." Maria looked at him. "Yes." "Who?" Maria didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Clara. That made Damian immediately suspicious. "Why do you keep looking at her?" Maria's expression softened. "Because she is the reason Alessandro trusted Thomas." Clara felt uncomfortable. "Why me?" Maria walked closer. Not threatening. Careful. Like she was approaching someone carrying a fragile memory. "Because your father understood something most powerful people forget." "What?" Maria smiled faintly. "Power does not protect people." A pause. "People protect people." Clara looked at the old book. "My father knew your family." "Yes." "Why didn't he tell me?" Maria looked away. "Because he knew you would ask questions." A pause. "And questions are dangerous in our world." Damian looked at his mother. "What happened to Alessandro?" The question finally came. The question he had carried his entire life. Maria became silent. Everyone waited. Then she said, "Your father wasn't killed." Damian froze. "What?" "He disappeared." "Why?" A pause. "Because he discovered someone planned to destroy everything he built." Damian's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Maria looked toward the dark library windows. "The person you trusted most." The answer felt familiar. Too familiar. Someone close. Someone inside. "You're avoiding the question." "No." Maria looked at him. "I'm protecting you from the answer." Damian laughed quietly. A cold laugh. 10 years ago, everyone said they were protecting me." A pause. "Thomas Bennett. Adrian. You." His voice became heavier. "Everyone protected me by lying to me." Maria looked hurt, because she knew he was right. "I was wrong." The words surprised everyone, especially Damian. Maria Moretti was not a woman who apologized easily. "I thought hiding the truth would keep you alive." A pause. "But I forgot something." "What?" Maria looked at him. "You weren't a child anymore." The tension softened slightly. Only slightly. Then suddenly, Clara noticed something. The book. It was open on the desk. A page she hadn't seen before. A hidden section beneath the cover. Wait. Everyone turned. She pointed. There is something here. Damian approached. What? Clara touched the edge of the page. My father repaired old books. A pause. He used techniques that hid damaged sections. She carefully lifted the paper. Behind it, a small photograph. Old, faded. Damian picked it up. His expression changed. Clara looked. The photo showed 4 people. Alessandro Moretti, Thomas Bennett, Maria Moretti, and a young girl. Clara. Her breath stopped. No. Maria looked at her sadly. Yes. Clara stared at the picture. When was this taken? Before Thomas adopted you. The world seemed to tilt. Adopted. A word she had never heard. A truth hidden her entire life. Damian looked at Maria. Explain. Maria took a breath. Thomas didn't find Clara. A pause. He was asked to protect her. By Alessandro? Maria nodded. Yes. Clara touched the photograph. Why? Maria looked at her. Because you were the only person who could expose the person who betrayed him. Silence. Then Damian asked, What does Clara know? Maria looked at him. Nothing. A pause. That's why she was safe. The answer created another question. If she knew nothing. Damian looked at the book. Why did Alessandro choose her? Maria's eyes moved to the old leather cover. Because he knew one day. A pause. She would find the truth herself. Before anyone could respond, the library doors slammed shut. Every light turned off. Darkness swallowed the room. A voice came from the entrance. Calm, confident, familiar, beautiful. A pause. I was wondering how long it would take you to open that book. Damian immediately turned. Show yourself. A man stepped into the dim light. Expensive suit, cold smile. Someone who looked comfortable among danger. Maria's expression changed. Not fear. Recognition. Stefano? Clara looked at Damian. Who is he? Damian's eyes became colder than ever. My uncle. Stefano smiled. Hello, Damian. A pause. Then he looked at Clara. The little librarian finally found what everyone has been searching for. He walked closer. And unfortunately, a pause. She still doesn't know what she is carrying. Damian stepped in front of Clara. Stefano smiled. Always protecting people who aren't yours. Damian's voice was low. Leave. Stefano laughed. You still don't understand. A pause. The book was never the treasure. His eyes moved to Clara. She is. The room went silent. Because everyone finally understood. The book was only the beginning. The words stayed in the air. She is. Clara felt every person in the room looking at her. Not as a librarian. Not as a woman who spent years quietly helping strangers find stories. But as something else. Something connected to secrets. Power. Danger. She hated that feeling. Because for most of her life, Clara had fought to be seen as a normal person. Not a mistake. Not someone fragile. Not someone who needed to be protected. And now, a stranger was telling her she was the center of a war she never chose. What does that mean? Her voice was steady. Even though her hands were shaking, Stefano Moretti smiled. You really don't know. No. Clara stepped forward. So explain. Damian immediately moved beside her. Not in front. Beside. A small difference. But Clara noticed. Stefano looked at Damian. You taught her confidence. A pause. Interesting. Damian's expression remained cold. Answer her. Stefano laughed softly. You always were impatient. Then he looked at Clara. Your father left something behind. My father? Thomas Bennett. A pause. He protected something that belonged to Alessandro. Clara looked at the book. The book? Stefano shook his head. No. A pause. You. The room became silent. Clara felt her heartbeat. What are you talking about? Maria stepped forward. Stefano. Her voice carried warning. Don't. But Stefano ignored her. Why hide the truth from her? A pause. After all, he looked at Clara. She deserves to know what she really is. Damian moved. Instantly, the air changed. Choose your next words carefully. Stefano smiled. There he is. A pause. The dangerous Damian everyone fears. Damian didn't respond. He simply walked forward. One step, then another. Stefano's men raised their weapons. But Damian didn't stop. The strange thing was, he didn't look angry. He looked certain. Put those down. His voice was quiet. Nobody moved. Then Damian looked at one of the men. Just looked. The man lowered his weapon. Then another. Then another. Clara watched in disbelief. He didn't threaten them. He didn't shout. He simply carried a presence that made people listen. Stefano's smile disappeared. You think fear makes you powerful? Damian stopped. No. A pause. Fear is why people betray you. He looked at Stefano. Loyalty is what makes people stay. For a brief moment, nobody spoke. Then Stefano clapped slowly. Beautiful. A pause. But sentimental. He looked at Clara. Do you know why your father chose a librarian? Clara said nothing. Because nobody would suspect you. Her expression changed. What? Stefano continued. Everyone was searching for criminals. Businessmen. Politicians. Powerful families. A pause. Nobody looked at the woman organizing books in a quiet library. Clara felt something break inside. Not fear. Confusion. Her entire life suddenly looked different. My father used me? The question came out quietly. Maria immediately answered. No. Everyone looked at her. Maria stepped closer. Thomas protected you. A pause. He never wanted you involved. Stefano laughed. How noble. Then he looked at Clara. But ask yourself something. Why did Alessandro leave the book where you could find it? A pause. Why did he leave a message for you? Why did every secret lead back to you? Clara looked at Damian. She didn't know why. Maybe because he was the only person in the room who hadn't lied to her. Or maybe because she needed someone to tell her she wasn't losing her mind. Damian met her eyes and said quietly, Don't listen to him. But what if he's right? The question surprised him. Clara looked away. I spent my whole life thinking I knew who I was. A pause. Now I don't even know my own story. Damian stepped closer. You know exactly who you are. She looked at him. How? Because I've seen it. A pause. Before I knew your name. Clara stayed silent. Damian continued. I saw you help an old man find a book when nobody else had time. I saw you stay late to fix a child's damaged library card. I saw you stand against Victoria when everyone else stayed quiet. His voice softened. That is who you are. Not a secret. Not an inheritance. Not a weapon. A person. For the first time that night, Clara felt like she could breathe. But Stefano was not finished. He reached into his coat and removed a small envelope. Maria's face changed. No, Stefano smiled. Oh yes. He handed it to Clara. Your father wrote this. Clara didn't take it. Damian looked at Stefano. What is it? Stefano answered. The truth. Slowly, Clara accepted the envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter. Old. Carefully preserved. The handwriting was familiar. Her father's. She read the first line, and immediately froze. My dear Clara, if you are reading this, then I have failed to keep you away from the Moretti world. Her breathing became uneven. She continued, "But there is something you must know." A pause. "You were never chosen because of what you inherited." Clara looked up. Everyone waited. She looked back at the letter, then read the final sentence. "You were chosen because Alessandro believed you were the only person who could forgive him." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because that sentence created a question nobody expected. Forgive him? Why would Alessandro Moretti need forgiveness? Stefano smiled. Because he knew something they didn't. "Now you understand." A pause. "Your father wasn't hiding you from us." He looked at Clara. "He was hiding us from you." The library fell silent. And for the first time, Damian Moretti looked uncertain. Because if Stefano was telling the truth, then the biggest secret was not about Clara's identity. It was about what Alessandro Moretti had done. The letter felt heavier than paper. Clara stood in the middle of the library, holding the words of a father who had been gone for years. A father who had loved her. A father who had protected her. A father who had apparently hidden an entire world from her. She read the sentence again. "You were chosen because Alessandro believed you were the only person who could forgive him." Forgive him. The words refused to make sense. Clara looked at Damian. For the first time since they met, she saw uncertainty in his eyes. Not fear, not weakness, but confusion. Because whatever Alessandro Moretti had done, Damian didn't know either. What did he do? Her voice was quiet. Nobody answered. She looked at Maria. "You knew." Maria lowered her eyes. "Some of it." "Some?" A bitter smile appeared on Clara's face. "Everyone seems to know pieces of my life, except me." Damian stepped closer. "Clara?" She looked at him. "No." A pause. "I need answers." She turned toward Maria. "What was my father protecting me from?" Maria remained silent. Then she finally spoke. "From the truth about Alessandro." Stefano smiled from across the room. Finally. Maria looked at him. "Leave." Stefano laughed. "You still think you can command me?" A pause. "You lost that power 10 years ago." Damian's eyes narrowed. "Enough." Stefano looked at him. "You still don't understand, do you?" A pause. "Your entire life was built on a lie." Damian didn't move, but Clara saw the anger behind his calm expression. Stefano continued. "Alessandro wasn't the hero you think he was." A pause. "He wasn't a victim. He was the reason everything fell apart." The words hung there. Heavy, dangerous. Clara looked at the letter, then at Damian. "What is he talking about?" Damian didn't answer. Because he didn't know, and that scared him. Stefano walked slowly through the library. "Your father built an empire." He looked at Damian. "He taught you that power was responsibility." A pause. "But he never told you what he did to get that power." Maria's voice became sharp. "Stefano, no." He looked at her. "She deserves the truth." Clara felt anger rising. "Stop talking about me like I'm not here." Everyone became silent. She stood taller. "I spent my entire life being treated like I was invisible." A pause. "People looked at me and decided what I was worth before they knew me." Her eyes moved toward Stefano. "I won't let powerful people do the same thing." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Damian looked at her, and something changed. Respect. Stefano smiled slightly. "Maybe Thomas was right." "What?" "He said you had something the Moretti family lost." "What?" Stefano looked at her. "A conscience." The room became quiet. Then Maria walked toward the old book. "There is more." She opened it. Inside the hidden compartment was another piece. Not a letter. A photograph. She placed it on the table. It showed Alessandro, Thomas, and another man. A man Clara had never seen, but Damian recognized him immediately. "No." His voice changed. Clara looked at him. Who is that? Damian stared at the photograph. My father's closest friend. Maria nodded. His name was Victor Rinaldi. Was? A pause. He died 12 years ago. Damian looked confused. Then why is he in this picture? Maria answered, because Victor was the first person who discovered Alessandro's secret. Stefano interrupted. And the first person Alessandro betrayed. Clara looked between them. What secret? Nobody wanted to answer. That was when she knew. Whatever it was worse than she imagined. Finally, Adrian spoke. Alessandro had another child. Silence. Damian stared. What? Maria closed her eyes. It was before you. Clara looked at Damian. Another child. Another hidden family secret. Stefano smiled. And that child is alive. Damian's expression hardened. Where? Stefano looked toward the door. Closer than you think. The lights suddenly flickered, then went out. A second later, a phone rang. Everyone froze, because the sound came from inside the room. Damian looked around. Then his eyes stopped. On the old bookshelf. Behind the books. Behind the books. A small device was blinking. A recording. Maria's face changed. Impossible. Damian pressed the button. Static filled the room. Then a voice. An old voice. Familiar. A voice Damian had spent years trying to forget. Damian. Everyone froze. Because it was Alessandro Moretti. The recording continued. If you are hearing this. A pause. Then I failed. Clara felt tears forming. Because she heard something in his voice. Regret. Pain. Not the voice of a monster. The voice of a broken man. Alessandro continued. Thomas was right. A pause. I should have told the truth sooner. The recording became quieter. Clara. Her heart stopped. He knew her name. You were the only person I trusted to judge me. Damian looked at her. The recording continued. And Damian. A pause. You were never meant to inherit my empire. Everyone froze. What? Damian whispered. Alessandro's voice continued. You were meant to destroy it. The recording ended. The library became completely silent. Then, a slow clap echoed from the darkness. Stefano smiled. Now you understand. Damian turned toward him. Stefano's eyes were cold. The empire your father built. A pause. Was never supposed to survive. And for the first time, Clara realized something terrifying. They weren't fighting to protect the Moretti legacy. They were fighting to decide whether it deserved to exist at all. The recording ended, but Alessandro Moretti's final words remained, hanging in the air, impossible to ignore. You were meant to destroy it. Damian stood completely still. The kind of stillness that frightened people more than anger, because everyone knew something was happening behind his eyes. A lifetime of beliefs collapsing. The Moretti Empire, the name he carried. The responsibility he accepted. The burden he believed was his destiny. Maybe it was never meant to be saved. Maybe it was the thing that needed to disappear. Clara watched him carefully. She had only known Damian for a short time, but she understood one thing. He wasn't a man afraid of losing power. He was a man afraid that everything he sacrificed for had been meaningless. Damian! He didn't answer. She stepped closer. Look at me. Slowly. He did. And Clara saw the pain he tried so hard to hide. What if he was right? His voice was quiet. What? What if everything I built? A pause. Everything I protected. His eyes moved toward the old book. What if it was all wrong? Clara shook her head. No. Damian looked surprised. You don't know that. No. A pause. But I know something else. She looked directly at him. Your father's choices are not yours. The words reached him. Because everyone around Damian always talked about Alessandro, his legacy, his name, his mistakes, but nobody talked about Damian. Clara continued. You don't have to become him. A pause. And you don't have to destroy yourself trying to fix him. For a moment, Damian said nothing. Then a small sound escaped him, almost a laugh. What? Clara asked. He shook his head slightly. You are the first person who has ever spoken to me like that. Like what? Like I'm a person. The honesty surprised her. Because behind the rumors, behind the power, behind the fear people had of him, there was a man who had spent years being treated like a symbol, not a human being. Before Clara could respond, a loud crash came from outside. Everyone turned. The library windows shattered. Again. Damian reacted instantly. He grabbed Clara and moved her behind the front desk. Maria and Adrian moved in opposite directions. Controlled. Experienced. Everyone stays down. Damian's voice was calm. Clara looked at him. You always say that. Because you never listen. A pause. And you always come closer. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Maybe because you always leave people behind. Damian looked at her, then quickly looked away. Because she was right. Outside, cars stopped in front of the library. Multiple vehicles. Too many. Adrian looked through the window. It's not Stefano. Damian turned. Who? Adrian's face became serious. The Rinaldi family. Maria's expression changed. No, Clara noticed. You know them? Maria looked at her. They are the reason Alessandro disappeared. The doors opened. A group of people entered, but they weren't attacking. They walked with confidence. Like they owned the building. At the front was a man, early 30s, dark hair, cold eyes, a familiar presence. Damian stared. The man stared back. Neither spoke. Then the stranger smiled. Hello, brother. The room froze. Clara looked at Damian. Damian didn't move. What did you call me? The man smiled. Brother. Stefano watched silently, enjoying the moment. Damian looked at Maria. Is this? Maria closed her eyes. Yes. The man stepped forward. My name is Luca Rinaldi. A pause. But Alessandro named me Luca Moretti. The impossible truth finally appeared. The hidden child. The secret Alessandro buried. Damian's brother. Clara looked at Damian. She expected anger, hatred, a reaction. But instead, nothing. Because Damian was too shocked to feel anything. Luca looked around the library. 10 years. A pause. I wondered when you would finally learn. Damian's voice was cold. Learn what? Luca looked at the old book. That Alessandro wasn't protecting the empire. A pause. He was protecting us from it. Damian stepped forward. Explain. Luca looked at him. Alessandro discovered the Moretti Empire had become something he never intended. A pause. Corrupt. Violent. Controlled by people who loved power more than family. Damian looked at Stefano. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Stefano wasn't protecting the family. He was protecting the machine. Luca continued. Alessandro planned to dismantle everything. A pause. He wanted to end the empire. Clara looked at Damian. Then why didn't he? Luca looked at her. Because he was betrayed before he could. Damian's eyes narrowed. By who? Luca looked toward Stefano. Nobody spoke. Because everyone already knew. Stefano finally smiled. You always were too curious, Damian. A pause. Just like your father. Damian moved toward him. But Luca stepped between them. Not yet. Damian looked at him. Move. No. A pause. Because if you kill him now, Luca looked at Stefano. You will prove him right. The words stopped Damian. Stefano smiled. Interesting. He looked at Luca. You're defending him? Luca answered. I'm defending the truth. For the first time, the people in the room were not divided by family. They were divided by choices. Maria walked toward Clara. She held something in her hand. A small key. What is that? Maria placed it in Clara's palm. Something your father wanted you to have. Clara looked confused. What does it open? Maria looked at Damian, then at the book, the place where Alessandro hid his final confession. Damian stared. Where? Maria's expression became serious. Under the library. Everyone went silent. Because Bellwood Library wasn't just where the story began. It was where Alessandro Moretti had hidden the truth all along. But before anyone could move, Luca's phone rang. He answered. His expression changed instantly. What? Silence. Then, that's impossible. Damian looked at him. What happened? Luca slowly lowered the phone. His face was pale. Someone opened the underground vault. A pause. Someone who already had the key. Clara looked down at the key in her hand, then back at Maria, because there was only one possibility. The key was not the only thing hidden for 10 years. Someone else had been waiting for this moment. The underground vault beneath Bellwood Library had existed for decades. Most people in the city believed the library was just a quiet building filled with forgotten books, a place for students, researchers, people looking for a few hours of peace. Nobody knew there was another world beneath it, a hidden place built for secrets. Damian stared at the staircase that had appeared beneath the old archive floor, the hidden entrance, the one Alessandro Moretti had protected for 10 years. And now, someone had opened it before them. Who has the key? Damian asked. Maria remained silent. That silence was enough. Damian's eyes narrowed. Mother. Maria looked away. There were 2 keys. Clara felt her stomach tighten. 2? Maria nodded. One was given to Thomas. A pause. The other. She looked toward the darkness below. Stayed with Alessandro. Damian understood immediately. But Alessandro disappeared. Yes. Then who opened it? Nobody answered. Because the answer was terrifying. Someone who knew the past. Someone who knew the secrets. Someone who had been waiting. Stefano smiled. You always were slow to understand. Damian turned. You're enjoying this. Of course. A pause. After 10 years of hiding, the truth finally comes out. Damian walked toward him. Stefano didn't move. You knew. A pause. You knew about the vault. Stefano smiled. I knew everything. Clara looked at him. Then why wait? Stefano looked at her. Because your father was careful. A pause. Too careful. He pointed toward the underground entrance. That vault could only be opened when 3 things happened. 3? Stefano counted slowly. Alessandro's book, Thomas Bennett's daughter, and Damian Moretti. Everyone became silent. Clara felt a strange fear. Not because Stefano was threatening them, because he was revealing something deeper. This was planned. Her voice was quiet. Stefano nodded. Yes. A pause. Alessandro planned for the day you would all return. Damian looked at the staircase. His father had predicted this, 10 years ago, before everything fell apart. He knew. Damian whispered. He knew this would happen. Luca stepped closer. Your father always believed people would reveal themselves eventually. Damian looked at him. What does that mean? Luca looked toward Stefano. It means Alessandro wasn't trying to hide the truth forever. A pause. He was trying to see who would come looking for it. A cold realization entered the room. The betrayal, the attacks, the lies. Maybe they weren't random. Maybe they were all part of a final test. Maria took a breath. We go down. Damian nodded. Everyone prepared. Clara followed. Damian noticed. You should stay here. She looked at him. No, Clara. I know what you're going to say. A pause. That it's dangerous. She looked at the dark staircase. But every dangerous thing in my life started because someone decided I couldn't handle the truth. Damian stayed quiet. Then nodded. Stay close. She smiled faintly. You finally stopped saying, stay behind me. A small pause. I'm learning. Together, they descended. The staircase was old. Stone walls, dusty air, a place untouched by time. At the bottom was a massive steel door. No lock, no handle, only a symbol. The same symbol from Clara's father's belongings. Clara touched it. The door opened. Inside was not money, not weapons, not anything they expected. Books, hundreds of them. Old documents, photographs, records, a lifetime of information. Clara whispered, "This isn't a vault." "No." Damian looked around. "It's an archive." A place where the truth had been preserved. Luca picked up a file. His expression changed. "Impossible." Damian looked at him. "What?" Luca handed him the document. Damian read it and froze. Clara stepped closer. "What is it?" Damian didn't answer. Maria took the paper. Her face turned pale. "What?" Clara asked. Maria looked at her. "This proves Alessandro wasn't trying to destroy the empire." A pause. He was trying to save thousands of people from it. Damian looked through more files. Names, transactions, hidden operations, evidence, and then one file with Clara's name. Her heart stopped. My name. Damian opened it. Inside was a letter, not from Thomas, not from Alessandro, from someone else. Clara read the first line. Clara Bennett was never adopted by Thomas Bennett. She froze. "What?" Damian looked at her. She continued reading. Thomas Bennett was chosen as her guardian because he was the only person Alessandro trusted. Then the next sentence. But the truth is, her hands began shaking. Clara was Alessandro Moretti's biological daughter. Silence. Complete silence. Damian looked at her, unable to speak. Maria closed her eyes, because she knew. Clara stepped backward. "No." A whisper. "No, that's not possible." Luca looked away, because he knew this was the truth. Damian moved toward her. "Clara." She shook her head. "Don't." Her voice cracked. "Everyone keeps telling me who I am." A pause. "My whole life." She looked at the documents. My whole life was someone else's decision. Damian stopped, because he understood. This wasn't about power. It was about identity. Clara looked at him. Was I ever just Clara? The question hurt everyone, especially Damian, because he knew the answer mattered, more than any empire, more than any secret. Before he could respond, a sound came from the other side of the vault, a slow clap. Everyone turned. The person who opened the vault stepped into the light, and Clara stopped breathing. Because she recognized him. A man from her childhood. A man she thought was gone forever. Thomas Bennett, her father, alive, but his face showed something worse than sadness. "Guilt," Clara whispered. "Dad?" Thomas looked at her. "I'm sorry." A pause. "I should have told you the truth." Damian stepped forward. "Where have you been?" Thomas looked at him. "Running." A long silence. Then Thomas said the words that changed everything. "Because I wasn't hiding from the Moretti family." He looked at Clara. "I was hiding from your real mother." Everyone froze, because nobody had expected the next secret. There was another person behind the entire story. For 10 years, Clara Bennett believed she had lost her father. She believed grief was something she had to carry quietly, something she had to accept, something that would never change. But now, the man standing in front of her was alive, not a memory, not a photograph, not a story someone told her. Alive. And yet, the happiness she expected never came, because Thomas Bennett was not returning with answers. He was returning with more questions. Clara stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, "Where were you?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Thomas looked at his daughter, and Clara saw something she had never seen before. Fear. Not fear of danger. Fear of facing the person he loved most. "I was protecting you." A bitter smile appeared on her face. "Everyone says that." She looked around the vault. "Everyone protected me by lying to me." Thomas lowered his eyes. "You're right." The answer surprised her, because she expected excuses, not honesty. "I was wrong." A pause. "But I thought the truth would destroy you." Clara stepped closer. "You don't get to decide that." The words hit him, because they were true. Thomas looked older than she remembered, not physically, emotionally, like 10 years of running had taken something from him. "I know." A pause. "And I will spend the rest of my life regretting it." Damian watched silently. He understood Thomas more than he wanted to admit, because he knew what it meant to carry impossible choices. But there was still one question, the one Thomas avoided. "Who is Clara's mother?" Damian asked. The room became silent. Thomas looked at him, then at Maria, then finally at Clara. Her name was Isabella Moretti. The name changed everything. Maria closed her eyes. Damian froze. Luca looked shocked. Clara looked confused. "Moretti?" Thomas nodded. "Yes. Your mother was Alessandro's first love." The truth continued to unfold. Isabella Moretti, a woman from the original Moretti family, a woman who disappeared before Alessandro built his empire, a woman everyone believed died years ago. But she didn't. Thomas shook his head. "No?" A pause. "She survived." Clara felt her heart beating faster. "Where is she?" Thomas didn't answer. And that silence was the answer. Damian stepped forward. "She is alive." Thomas looked at him. "Yes." A pause. "And she is the reason Alessandro created this entire plan." Everyone listened. Thomas walked toward the archive shelves. He removed an old file. Inside were photographs, documents, letters. Isabella discovered something. "What?" Thomas looked at Damian. "That the Moretti Empire was never controlled by Alessandro." A pause. "It was controlled by the people around him." Stefano's expression changed. Only slightly, but Clara noticed. Thomas continued. "Isabella found evidence that someone inside the family had been manipulating everything, using Alessandro's name, using his power. And when she tried to expose them, he stopped." Clara whispered, "What happened?" Thomas looked at her. "They tried to kill her." Silence. Damian looked at Stefano. "You knew?" Stefano smiled faintly. "I knew many things." Damian stepped toward him, but Thomas stopped him. "No." Everyone looked at Thomas. "Not him." Thomas looked at the vault. "Not yet." Clara frowned. "Why?" Thomas looked at the documents. "Because Stefano wasn't the person who ordered the attack." Everyone froze. "What?" Thomas took a deep breath. "The person behind everything." A pause. "Is someone you all trust." Maria's face changed. "Thomas." He looked at her. "You know I'm right." Damian's voice became cold. "Who?" Thomas remained silent. Then he opened another file. Inside was a photograph, a recent photograph. Clara looked at it. Her eyes widened, because the person in the picture was someone she knew. Someone who had always been kind to her. Someone who had helped her. The person she never suspected. No. Her voice cracked. Damian took the photograph. His expression darkened, because he recognized the name. Thomas whispered, "She was never protecting you." A pause. "She was watching you." Clara looked at Damian. "Who is it?" Damian slowly answered, "Victoria Hale. The same woman who humiliated her in the library. The same woman who tried to make her feel worthless. The same woman who seemed to hate her from the moment they met." But now, Clara understood. Maybe Victoria wasn't jealous. Maybe she was afraid. The vault suddenly shook. A loud explosion echoed above them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Everyone looked upward. Thomas's expression changed. "They found us." Damian moved instantly. "Who?" Thomas looked at Clara, and for the first time, real fear appeared in his eyes. "Isabella." Clara froze. "My mother?" Thomas nodded. A pause. "She knows the vault is open." Damian looked confused. Why would that be a problem? Thomas looked at him. "Because Isabella doesn't want the truth revealed." The lights flickered, then died. In the darkness, a woman's voice echoed through the vault. Soft, calm, familiar. "Clara." Everyone stopped, because the voice belonged to someone who should have been a stranger. But somehow, it felt like home. The voice continued, "Come to me." A pause. "Your father lied to you." Clara's breathing stopped. Then the final words came. "Your mother never abandoned you." Silence. "She was waiting for you." And in that moment, Clara realized the truth was not bringing her closer to peace. It was pulling her deeper into a family war that had started before she was even born. The voice disappeared, but nobody moved. Nobody spoke, because everyone in that underground vault understood one thing. Isabella Moretti was no longer a forgotten name from the past. She was here, and she had been waiting. Clara stood frozen. Her entire life had been built on simple truths. Thomas Bennett was her father. The library was her home. Books were her escape. She was just Clara. But now every truth she trusted had another layer hidden beneath it. Her father was not gone. Her mother was alive. Her bloodline connected her to the most dangerous family in the city. And somewhere above them, the woman who gave her life wanted her to come closer. Damian looked at Thomas. "Where is she?" Thomas didn't answer. Damian's voice became colder. "Where is Isabella?" Thomas looked at Clara, and that answer alone told Damian everything. "You know." A pause. "You know where she is." Thomas sighed. "I know where she was." "Where?" A long silence. Then, the old Moretti estate. Maria's expression changed. "No." Everyone looked at her. Maria shook her head. She wouldn't go there. Thomas looked at her. She already did. Damian noticed the tension. "You two knew each other." Maria looked away. "Yes." Clara looked between them. Everyone knew everyone. Her voice cracked. "Except me." The sentence hurt more than anger, because it was true. Everyone had been protecting secrets. And Clara had been living inside a story written by other people. Damian walked toward her. "Clara." She looked at him. "What?" A pause. "Are you okay?" She almost laughed. "Do I look okay?" Damian didn't answer, because she didn't. But he also knew something else. She was still standing. That was what made Clara different. She broke. She hurt. She cried. But she never stayed down. "I need to see her." Everyone looked at her. Thomas immediately shook his head. "No." Clara looked at him. "You don't get to tell me no." A pause. "Not anymore." Thomas closed his eyes, because he knew he deserved that. Damian stepped forward. "Then we go together." Clara looked at him. "You don't have to." I know. A pause. But I'm going. Something about the way he said it made her stop arguing. Not a command. Not control. A promise. Maria looked at Damian. You don't know what Isabella is capable of. Damian answered. Neither do you. The group left the underground vault. But before they reached the library entrance, Clara stopped. She looked back. At the hidden room. At all the secrets. At the life she thought she understood. Then she closed the door. Not because she was leaving the past behind, but because she was choosing what happened next. Outside, the city was covered in rain. The same rain from the night everything changed. Damian's car waited outside. Clara entered. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Damian said, "You can still turn back." Clara looked out the window. No. A pause. I spent my whole life wondering why I never belonged anywhere. She looked at him. Maybe I wasn't supposed to find a place. A pause. Maybe I was supposed to find the truth. Damian watched her, then nodded. You're stronger than you think. Clara smiled sadly. Funny. What? Everyone keeps saying that after they put me through something terrifying. For a second, Damian almost smiled. Almost. The old Moretti estate appeared through the rain. A massive mansion on the edge of the city. Dark. Silent. Forgotten. But Clara knew someone was inside. Waiting. The moment they entered the gates, the security system activated. Lights turned on. One by one. Someone had been expecting them. The front doors opened, and standing inside was Isabella Moretti. Clara stopped breathing, because she didn't look like a villain. She looked like a mother, older than Clara imagined, tired, beautiful, broken. Isabella looked at her daughter, and tears filled her eyes. Clara. That single word carried 20 years of pain. Clara couldn't move. She wanted to run toward her. She wanted to scream. She wanted answers. Instead, she whispered, "Why?" Isabella took a step forward. "Because I thought staying away would keep you alive." Clara's eyes filled with anger. Everyone says that. A pause. Everyone leaves me and calls it protection. Isabella stopped, because she knew Clara was right. I deserved that. A pause. I deserved your anger. For the first time, Clara saw something unexpected. Her mother wasn't defending herself. She was accepting the pain. Then Isabella looked at Damian, and her expression changed. You brought him. Damian stepped forward. Why? Isabella looked at him. Because he needs to know. Know what? Isabella looked at Clara, then at Damian. The truth about Alessandro. Damian's expression hardened. I already know enough. Isabella shook her head. No. A pause. You know what he wanted you to know. She walked toward an old table. On it was a single object. A journal. Clara recognized it. Her father's handwriting. Isabella touched the cover. This is Alessandro's final journal. Damian stared. Impossible. It was hidden for 10 years. A pause. Because it contained the one thing Alessandro feared more than losing his empire. Clara looked at her. What? Isabella opened the journal. The first page contained one sentence. If Clara ever discovers the truth, she must know that I am the reason her mother left. Everyone froze. Damian looked at Isabella. What does that mean? Isabella's eyes filled with tears. Then she said the words that shattered everything. Because Alessandro didn't lose me. A pause. He betrayed me. The room became silent. Clara looked at the journal, at her mother, at Damian, and realized the biggest secret wasn't who betrayed Alessandro. It was who Alessandro betrayed first. The old mansion became completely silent. Not the peaceful silence of a library. Not the comforting silence Clara once loved. This was the silence of a truth that had finally reached the surface. Damian stared at Isabella. The woman who had disappeared. The woman his family mourned. The woman who had just revealed that Alessandro Moretti was not the innocent victim everyone believed. "You're saying my father betrayed you." His voice was controlled. Too controlled. Isabella looked at him. "Yes." A pause. "But not in the way you think." Damian stepped closer. "Then explain." Isabella looked at Clara. "Because she deserves to hear this too." Clara stood quietly. She had spent her entire life searching for answers. But now that they were finally coming, they hurt more than she expected. Isabella opened Alessandro's journal. The pages were old, the handwriting uneven, like every word had been written by a man carrying unbearable regret. "The man your father knew," she looked at Damian, "was not the man he became." Damian frowned. "What does that mean?" Isabella turned the page. Alessandro was young when he built his empire. A pause. He wanted security. He wanted respect. He wanted to make sure nobody could hurt his family again. She looked at Clara. But somewhere along the way, a pause, he started believing power was the only way to protect people. Clara lowered her eyes, because she understood that kind of mistake. People could become so afraid of losing something that they destroyed it themselves. Isabella continued. Alessandro made deals. A pause. Deals he thought he could control. One of those deals created the monster that destroyed our family. Damian looked at the journal. "Who?" Isabella hesitated. Then, Stefano. Everyone became still. Stefano was not always like this. Isabella said, "He was Alessandro's brother." A pause. But he believed fear was stronger than loyalty. Over time, he changed the empire. Quietly, patiently, until Alessandro realized the thing he built was no longer his. Damian looked away. All his life he thought his father was powerful, untouchable. But the truth was different. Alessandro had been fighting a war inside his own home. Then why didn't he tell me? The question came softly, almost like a child asking why his father left. Isabella looked at him. Because he was ashamed. The answer hurt. He believed if you knew the truth, a pause, you would become just like him. Damian said nothing, because that fear was familiar. He had spent years trying not to become Alessandro, and somehow, he had become trapped by that fear. Clara walked closer. "What about me?" Everyone looked at her. She looked at Isabella. "Why was I hidden?" Isabella's eyes filled with sadness. "Because you were the only thing Alessandro loved without condition." A tear fell from her eye, and that terrified him. Clara didn't understand. Why? Because everything he loved before, a pause, was eventually touched by his world. He didn't want that to happen to you. Clara looked at the journal. Then why leave clues? Isabella smiled sadly. Because deep down, Alessandro knew he couldn't hide forever. He wanted someone to judge him. A pause. Not his enemies, not his family, but someone who still believed people could change. Clara whispered, "And he chose me." Isabella nodded. "Yes." A long silence followed. Then Damian spoke. "What about the empire?" Isabella looked at him. "Your father wanted you to end it." A pause. Not because he hated what he built, because he loved what it was supposed to be. Damian looked at his hands, the same hands that had carried his father's name, protected his family's reputation, maintained an empire. Maybe the greatest act of loyalty was finally letting it go. Suddenly, a phone rang. Everyone turned. The sound came from Damian's pocket. He answered. No one spoke. He listened. Then his expression changed. What happened? Silence. Then Damian's voice became cold. How long? Another pause. Keep everyone safe. He ended the call. Clara immediately noticed. What happened? Damian looked at everyone. The Moretti headquarters was attacked. Maria stood. By who? Damian's eyes moved toward Stefano's missing location. Not Stefano. A silence. Someone else. Luca frowned. Who? Damian looked at Clara, and that scared her, because she had never seen that expression before. Not anger, not fear. Protection. The person who attacked. A pause. Used my name. Everyone froze. Someone is pretending to be Damian? Isabella whispered. Damian nodded. And they want everyone to believe I started a war. Clara understood. A new trap. Someone wanted Damian isolated. Wanted the family divided. Wanted the truth buried again. Then the mansion lights suddenly flickered. Once. Twice. Isabella looked toward the window. Her face changed. No. Damian noticed. What? She whispered. They found us. Outside the mansion. Black vehicles surrounded the property. Not one. Not two. Dozens. But something was wrong. They weren't Stefano's men. They weren't Rinaldi's soldiers. They wore Moretti symbols. Damian looked confused. Impossible. Clara stepped beside him. What? His voice became quiet. They are my people. The front door opened. A man walked inside. Someone Damian trusted. Someone who had stood beside him for years. The man removed his coat and placed a weapon on the table. I am sorry, boss. Damian stared. Why? The man lowered his eyes. Because the family needs a new leader. Clara felt her heart sink. Because betrayal had returned. And this time, it came wearing the face of loyalty. The man looked at Damian, then at Clara, and said, The Empire has chosen. A pause, and it did not choose you. The words echoed through the mansion. The Empire has chosen. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because everyone in that room understood what those words meant. This wasn't an attack. This wasn't revenge. This was a coup. The man standing at the entrance had spent years standing beside Damian. He had guarded him, advised him, protected him. His name was Marcus Vale, Damian's most trusted lieutenant, the one person Damian believed would never betray him. And now, he stood there, as the face of the betrayal. Damian stared at him. No anger, no shouting, only disappointment. Why? One word. Quiet. Heavy. Marcus looked away. Because you were never meant to lead. Clara noticed something. The way Damian reacted. Not like a powerful man losing control. Like a person losing someone he trusted. Marcus continued. You had everything. The name. The resources. The respect. A pause. But you wasted it. Damian remained silent. Marcus stepped forward. You wanted to change the Empire. A cold smile appeared. That was your mistake. Luca stepped forward. You sound exactly like Stefano. Marcus looked at him. Because Stefano understood reality. A pause. People don't follow kindness. They follow strength. Clara felt anger rising. Because she had heard those words before. From people who believed power gave them permission to hurt others. She stepped forward. Is that what you believe? Everyone looked at her. Marcus smiled. You should be afraid. No. A pause. I've been afraid my whole life. She looked directly at him. And I'm tired of people using fear as an excuse. Damian looked at her. Again he saw it. The same thing Alessandro saw. Not power. Not ambition. Courage. Marcus shook his head. You're just like him. Clara froze. Like who? Alessandro. The name changed the atmosphere. Marcus continued. He made the same mistake. A pause. He believed one person could change everything. But the world doesn't work that way. Damian finally spoke. No. Everyone looked at him. The world doesn't change because of one person. A pause. It changes because someone decides to start. Marcus stared, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. Damian slowly walked forward. You think this empire belongs to people like you? A pause. You think it belongs to fear? He looked around. At the mansion. At the people who followed him. At the legacy his father created. But you forgot something. What? Damian looked at him. The empire was never the people. A pause. The people were the reason the empire existed. Silence. Marcus's expression hardened. You're weak. Damian nodded slightly. Maybe. A pause. But I know something you don't. What? People can choose. Then something unexpected happened. One of Marcus's guards lowered his weapon. Then another. Then another. Marcus turned. What are you doing? The first guard spoke. Following the person who actually protected us. Another stepped forward. You saved our families. A pause. You treated us like people. The room changed. Because Marcus understood something too late. Fear created obedience, but respect created loyalty. Marcus looked at Damian, and for the first time, he looked defeated. Then suddenly, a gunshot. Everyone froze. Marcus fell backward. Not dead. Wounded. Everyone turned. A woman stood at the doorway, holding the weapon. Isabella. But she wasn't looking at Marcus. She was looking at Damian. Enough. Her voice was cold. Too many people have died because this family refused to let go. Damian stared. Mother. Isabella lowered the weapon. I spent years protecting secrets. A pause. Your father spent years trying to fix his mistakes. She looked at Clara. And now, a pause. It's your turn to decide what happens next. Everyone looked at Clara. She hated that. She hated being placed in the center. But then she remembered something. She was never chosen because she was powerful. She was chosen because she understood people. Clara walked toward the old journal. She picked it up. I spent my whole life thinking my story was something other people wrote. A pause. But they were wrong. She looked at Damian. Nobody gets to decide who we become. She looked at Marcus. Not fear. She looked at the Moretti family. Not blood. And not the past. She opened Alessandro's journal. The final page had one last message. A message nobody had seen. She read it aloud. If Clara finds this page, it means she has already learned the most important lesson. Family is not the people who share your blood. Family is the people who choose not to destroy you. Clara closed the journal, and for the first time, she understood why Alessandro trusted her. Not because she was his daughter, not because she carried his name, because she was the opposite of everything that destroyed him. Months later, Bellwood Library reopened. But it was different. The hidden archives were no longer used for secrets. They became a place for history, for truth, for people who needed a second chance. The Moretti Empire changed too. The old structure was dismantled. The businesses that harmed people disappeared. The remaining foundation became something new. A charity. A place that helped families, children, communities. And Damian. He finally stopped carrying a name like a punishment. He visited the library often, not as a boss, not as a powerful man, just Damian. One evening, Clara found him sitting at the old reading table, a book in his hands. She smiled. You actually read? He looked up. Sometimes. A pause. Don't tell anyone. She laughed. The sound surprised both of them. Because it was the first time in a long time. Everything felt normal. Do you regret it? Damian asked. What? Finding the truth. Clara thought for a moment, then shook her head. No. A pause. It hurt. But sometimes. She looked around the library. You have to open the book you are afraid to read. Damian smiled slightly. And what did you find? Clara looked at him. That I wasn't someone's secret. A pause. I was always my own story. Outside, the city continued moving. New stories began. Old wounds healed. And the family that was once destroyed by secrets finally learned something simple. Power could build an empire, but kindness could rebuild a life.